Welcome, one and all, to Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's jump right in here. So, I'm hearing, I'm reading that we have a deal with Iran. Now, it doesn't say that this is a peace deal. It's just a deal. And for all practical purposes, all this is another 60-day ceasefire when the parties are going to talk and see if they can come to an agreement. Now, apparently, at the last minute, the Trump administration decided that they would open up the Strait of Hormuz and stand down the military there, effective almost immediately. And in return for that, get this, the Iranians agree that the Americans can bring up the subject of nuclear weapons. You know, our president, and let me say, I still support Donald Trump, but this Donald Trump, this third term of Donald Trump, is markedly different than his first term. Here in this third term, he's uh, so many of his promises, especially the things that were going to happen on day one that didn't happen and still have yet to happen. And I don't know what his DOJ is doing. But I know more and more people are becoming totally frustrated. And they're frustrated naturally with the Republican Party because they expected to see results. And there have been just a few results. And an argument could be made that at least when it comes to politicians, it still seems to be that the Republicans, and I'm going to use that term lightly, are the ones that are being charged and convicted. I mean, Bolton pled guilty as a Republican. Comey is still fighting his charge, but he's an alleged Republican. And as a result, uh, it's just odd that there's so little happening with these Republicans in office. So many things that they could have done that they haven't done. But I don't want to get off of the subject here. The subject is this alleged peace deal. You know, I've said it before, but I want to go over this again. The problem with the Trump administration when they are dealing with Lebanon is there were three parties to well, perhaps four parties to the talks, maybe even five parties. But those parties are the United States, Lebanon, Israel, and then I guess Pakistan and Oman were also assisting. And I'm not sure how reliable those parties are, to be honest with you. But in any case, the Trump administration left out one of the most important parties in those negotiations, and that was Hezbollah. Now, let us review. You know, Israel has entered into agreements for peace in the past with Lebanon, and Lebanon was supposed to disarm Hezbollah. It's just that never happened, and Hezbollah keeps attacking Israel. It's like yesterday, uh, or perhaps it was Saturday when the last time that Israel was attacked. And of course, our president gets furious with them when they respond. And I know he wants to be the peace president and all this other nonsense, but that doesn't bode well. The only way you can be the peace president is to have massive power and use, and when I say power, I mean military power, and use that power and use the power convincingly, which hasn't happened here in Iran. We did a bunch of bombing, and I'm tempted to say when that didn't work as planned, but I'm not privy to the plan, so I can't really comment on that. But uh, it just seemed like the president is looking for a way out, and he's looking to surrender uh, in order to do it. Now, I don't know what's going to be the final outcome here, but so you got Hezbollah, and let's be clear, the Iranians are saying that this deal that they signed includes attacks against Hezbollah, but I don't think it includes attacks by Hezbollah on Israel. And so when you take a shortcut, like the Trump administration did in that scenario, in order to end this military conflict, uh, I get it just doesn't bode well. And then, all right, so now let's go over to the main country of Iran. So the problem here is there are multiple factions in Iran, and we're dealing with one faction. And again, we've excluded what I would say is a very important faction, and that's the IRGC. And apparently, they are not too happy with this deal whatsoever. So, considering that they are the parties with the weapons, much like Hezbollah is the party with the weapons in Lebanon, you need to have them on board. Now, perhaps this council, Iranian council, is the one that's allegedly signed off on this deal. And it's not a peace deal, it's just at best a ceasefire to buy more time. So I suppose if it does open up the Straits of Hormuz and enough oil is able to get through, uh, this will be a partial win for the president. But because we know that the IRGC is livid, is I guess the best word to say. I mean, I was watching on 2CTV. He was showing one of the protests in Iran of IRGC, and of course, you knew that these were the people in power because they all had weapons. See, that's the key. They have the weapons. For some reason, the Trump administration decided not to give the Iranian people weapons. The Trump administration was the party that goaded the Iranian civilians to take to the streets and take back their government, telling them that we had their back if they started killing them. Well, they started killing them. They're still killing them. Okay, so the last couple of days, I haven't seen any pictures or stories about any recent executions. Uh, but certainly, as recent as last week, we were seeing pictures and stories of additional protesters who were, well, they were murdered. And it's sad because so many that went out there and ended up murdered only went out there because the president, our president, told them to do it. And I just find that shameful. Look, I get the fact that the whole world economy is crumbling and the loss of oil into the market because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is it's going to have horrible repercussions. But it's my contention that while they might mitigate and minimize some of them repercussions in the short term, in the longer term, and when I say longer term, I'm not talking years here, I'm talking weeks, months, this deal isn't going to last. And the public perception out there is becoming more and more that our president is surrendering to the Iranians. I mean, really, we got very little in this. I know the president keeps talking about how they've agreed no nuclear weapons and all this other stuff, but it's not part of this agreement. Now, maybe it'll become part of an agreement if and when they sign one in another 60 days. But, this is, uh, consider it an agreement. It's little more than a nonsensical paper agreement that our president wanted one way or another. I guess maybe he's thinking that the fact that allegedly peace is coming there on his birthday is going to be somehow magnify uh, everything that's gone on there. But the problem is people care more about one thing more than anything else, and that's the economy. And let me break it down even simpler. They care about such things as feeding their family, keeping their family a roof over their head, keeping them sheltered from the weather, putting clothes on their back, having medical treatment. These are all other things, that people really, really care the most about. And right now, our economy is not doing well. And the increase in the price of energy is having a catastrophic impact that's still going to be, even assuming this turns out to be the best peace deal ever signed. And this ends everything, which I doubt, but let's just say for the sake of argument that that's the case. Well, a year from now, we're still going to be feeling the repercussions from this military conflict. And I contend it's not going to be long before we're going to start seeing the violations of this agreement because you have parties who we're not part of. And at least when it comes to the alleged peace agreement with Lebanon, Israel, and the United States, Hezbollah said straight up that they're not going to abide by that agreement. And I have no doubt that it was Iran, the IRGC more specifically, who placed a call to Hezbollah and told them to fire the rockets into Israel because the IRGC does not want this peace agreement. They're not part of it. They don't want to be a party of it, and they oppose it. And they were calling for death, whoever might be signing this peace agreement. They're saying they're absolutely a traitor to Iran, and they need to be uh, sent to the mortician, if that's okay to say on here. Uh, Now, whether or not that happens will remain to be seen. But I mean, look throughout this, you know, it was laughable that they were calling it a ceasefire because almost every day, one or both parties were firing at each other. And if there's firing, it just does not comport to the textbook definition of ceasefire. Ceasefire is pretty much just like it sounds, no more firing. But there was firing, so it really was never a ceasefire. It was just a reduction in military. And it became obvious that our president wanted up. And our president got livid. And I know I keep repeating myself here, but, our president got livid when the chancellor of Germany came out and said that the president was being played by the Iranians. The president was apoplectic over that. But the reality is that's how the whole world is seeing it. That's how the whole world, I believe, views this peace deal. And of course, you got some wimps like the fruity French who they come out now and say, "Oh yeah, we're all gung ho. We want to clear the Strait of Hormuz." Well, I suspect that the IRGC is going to attempt to be firing on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But to me, this is clear. I'm old, so I have lived through the whole situation with this rabid government in Iran. And, you know, they're fortunate enough to have a religion that tells them it's okay to lie and cheat as long as you're doing so for the furtherance of uh, Islam. And these people take it to heart, so you can't trust them. And notice how one of the first things that they were demanding is financial relief. And there are questions as to whether or not they actually got that. I wouldn't be surprised. The president wanted this deal one way or another, and he was, able to get it. I mean, so I suppose it's a birthday present of sorts. But I think when all is said and done at the end, what we're going to find out is that the combatants, at least on the other side, are not ready for this to be over. Their their orthodoxy of their religion requires them to continue to fight against the infidel, and this is a religious war in their eyes, and it's being done for religious purposes. And you're not going to overcome that. They're not going to agree to disagree with their religion. Just not going to happen, Mr. President. But you know what? There's nothing more that I would like than to come back on here a month or two from now and say, you know what? It's really, really working. Now, there is one thing that I do want to say that I do give the president credit for. Apparently, at night, they were sneaking some ships through the Strait of Hormuz. That and other economic factors. I think, as the whole world is going into this recession, there is an ever uh, growing decrease in the amount of oil being consumed worldwide. And so that's helping the situation. But they were able to get the price of oil down. And it's interesting because I see a headline here uh, at the Liberty Daily that is talking about that $4 gas may soon be over. Well, here in Florida, it ended about a week or so ago, and is actually down now around 350, 360 mark. And but keep this in mind, even though it has come down a nice amount, it's still substantially above what it was when this war started. And I really don't think that opening up the Strait of Hormuz, assuming that happens, is going to bring down those oil prices back to the pre-conflict prices anytime soon. In fact, I don't think a year from now that we'll see oil back down in the 50s or 40s or anywhere near that. It would be nice if it happens. I just don't see it happening. And all right. So I got to add one other thing here, and it doesn't have anything necessarily to do with Iran, but I'm also reading now that the situation in Venezuela is becoming shaky. Apparently, their economy is falling apart as well. Apparently, the damage and destruction to their oil infrastructure is far greater than anticipated. And so they're not able to get as much oil online as they would like to bring in as much money they would like. And so their economy is faltering. And once again, you have the population becoming totally upset. And we have to worry about, in that case, uh, we have to just. Uh, so let me remind everybody I am suffering from a short term memory problem. And, I've talked about this in my videos, and I'm going to continue to talk about it because I believe that this is caused by my having taken those chemicals that were put in our bodies under the guise of being a vaccine for the pandemic. Uh, I'll say here, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is, I had one of those freezes where I completely lost my place. So, uh, fortunately, I got a new camera, and with this new camera, I'm able to turn it on and off more readily. And so I'm able to cut it off and I'm able to recollect my thoughts. But This is a terrible thing to have. And let me just say, for people who may not have listened to any of my previous videos on this subject, but I do not have Alzheimer's and I do not have dementia because both of those conditions require an accumulation of amyloids on like the brain cells or whatever it is up there that they congregate and that thus cause the problems. I have no amyloid problem. So, uh, and let me say, the doctors haven't been able yet to give me a diagnosis. It's just like, well, let's keep taking the medication we've given you and come back in a year and we'll see if there's any difference. Well, maybe there'll be a difference. I don't know. We're going to wait and see. But it's been several years now that I've had this problem. And, I've had all of the tests. And so it's something I have to live with. But I think it's something that should also interest everyone out there. And the reason for that is because I read an article, and unfortunately, I don't have it readily available here to properly cite it, but it was a peer-reviewed study, and what they concluded was that people who took these chemicals into their body, uh, especially as they were aging and getting old, they found a higher amount of them having problems within their brains. Apparently, this mRNA doesn't bode well with a person's brains, and again, uh, we suspect that's by choice, but we'll have to just wait and see how it plays out. So, anyway, I wanted to give my update here on this Iranian situation, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that this is going to be a lasting peace. You know, I understand what the president wants to accomplish. I just believe the only way he's ever going to accomplish that is to completely take the IRGC out of the picture. Because as this group that signed the agreement, they're never going to definitely go against the arms of the IRGC. I just don't see that going to happen. And so sooner or later, the IRGC is going to get additional funds from the government, and excuse me, they're going to, they're going to, anyway, uh, now my voice is going to be giving out, so I think this will probably be a proper way or proper place to close this out. And again, let me say, I hope I can come back here and say that I was so wrong in this situation and that our president uh, really did well in these negotiations with the Iranians. And the only last thing I'll say is the Iranians entered into many agreements in the near 5 decades they've been in power, and they violated them all. So this would be a first, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. I thank you all. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.